That's an owner's manual. You get your table of contents. We put our contact information if there's an emergency, who you call. We put our signed contracted warranty information here as a reminder. And then your maintenance schedule, shop drawings, how to adjust your hinges, signed off permit, every plumbing fixture that you have, all the specs on it. This is a lot of information, and we gave this to the client. Good morning, Tyler and the MC crew.
Good morning. I feel like it might be afternoon now, but good morning anyway. Maybe you're listening in the morning.
Good evening.
So I apologize.
Choose your own path, Tyler.
I apologize in advance for the sniffling. I just keep blaming Rachel that she got me sick.
No, we find out in about the midpoint of this podcast what actually got you sick. So yeah. You'll have to stay tuned for that. But we are going to talk about
an interesting story.
Well, it's yeah, I suppose it's interesting. Matt reached out to you with a question regarding post-construction, which we've dabbled with here a handful of times. I know we certainly get a lot of questions on it, but we're going to dig into what we believe is the best process for not just closing out a project, but then becoming a good steward of the project beyond the construction. And that's for everything. That's from building a deck to building a house. How you can really build, trust and equity with a client beyond the build.
Yeah, so I appreciate the question, Matt. Hang around, sit tight, and let us know what you think. We appreciate everyone listening. This podcast is brought to you by Andersen. We all know Andersen is a trusted name for windows and patio doors, but here's something you might not know. They also make impressive moving glass walls called big doors. And these moving glass walls can help you capitalize on the indoor-outdoor market even in a rough climate. What's more impressive is that Andersen also has options for new homes as well as remodels. Their folding outswing door was recently used in a Michigan remodel where it opened up an entire wall of a 1950s era home. And in Minnesota, their 6-panel multi-glide door brought out the full beauty of a North Shore cabin retreat. These Andersen big doors bring the outdoors in during summer and provide ample views and weather protection in the winter. And with Andersen's proven track record and depth of support and training, installing them is easier than you might think. For more information, head over to andersenwindows.com/moderncraftsman.
This podcast is brought to you by Buildertrend. You ever feel like you have to open 12 tabs just to understand whether your jobs are actually on track? Well, one minute you're digging through schedules, then you're digging through budgets, text messages from your supers, trying to piece it all together on what's really happening. And for builders running multiple jobs, that lack of visibility is the first thing that caps your growth. Buildertrend fixes that. It's one platform with a big picture view when you need it and job level detail when you want it. No more guessing, no more chasing updates. You see exactly where every project stands, from cash flow to timelines to change orders. And if you want to scale without that chaos, this is how you get your nights and weekends back. Schedule a free demo at buildertrend.com/mcdemo.
This podcast is brought to you by Harnish. First impressions matter, and your crew's appearance speaks volumes. Harnish Workwear helps your brand exude a commanding presence with custom branded gear that reflects the quality of your craftsmanship. Their H-Label program delivers premium work apparel personalized with your logo, colors, and details. It's more than a uniform, it's a walking representation of your brand. Clean, consistent, and built to perform. If you're ready to elevate your image and stand out from the competition, visit harnishworkwear.com and start building your brand from the ground up.
Rock and roll, baby.
I kind of like that countdown. So for our listeners, we switched platforms.
We did.
We're not broadcast who we're using yet.
No, because what if it sucks?
Yeah, or until they become a sponsor. But
when you go to hit, we need a coffee sponsor 2026.
Yeah, we do. But also when you hit record, it does a countdown, which is kind of sick. It gets you all jacked up. I kind of wish it would count it down out loud though.
I feel like everyone knows this, but then again, I don't. When they do something something is like dynamite or like they're you don't say 5. You know that?
Skip it?
Yeah.
Nah, why?
Because people confuse it for fire.
Oh.
So they'll be like 7, 6, 4,
No.
3. I'm like, I don't know why I know that.
I don't know.
It was probably on some Mark Rober YouTube channel with my kids. Like that's probably where I learned it.
I'm going off like the ball drop at New Year. But so I recently had a listener send me an email. So today we're going to answer his question. It was from a listener named Matt. He is a PM out of Central Illinois, and he asked how builders can set up homeowners for success after a new build without overwhelming them. So things like appliance info, maintenance, what actually matters once the keys are handed over. And I love this question because it speaks directly to professionalism and long-term thinking and the difference between finishing a job and actually taking care of a client. And I also feel that this is something that I do not have a robust system for, that I could dig into this and really start wrapping my head around what's a better way to turn jobs over for clients, especially I'm just wrapping a job up now. And for me, the turnover is typically ending the job the same way that I starting it, cleaning the job, leaving them with a brand new product, making sure that everything's cleaned up, picked up, washed down, just turning over a brand new job to them as if somebody purchased a car. But I feel that I don't do the best as far as setting my clients up for the living in the space after the turnover. So I think that I could probably do a better job of that.
So I want to talk a lot about this process. And going into this, I thought I was going to talk about how we do it, but I actually have a lot of ideas that I've drafted out in terms of how you become not only a good steward to the closeout, but then, like you just alluded to, is the ongoing support. But something you just said, turning over a brand new product, that is something that I get so confused about when I'm walking someone else's project and it's being wrapped up and being delivered, and I'm looking around and it's like, yeah, but it's construction. So like, stuff's going to get damaged on the way out. And I'm like, sure. And your client's probably going to do a even worse job damaging it, but it should be brand new. Like you should be painting your way out of that house.
Yep.
And I remember we had someone that worked for us, and the client was like, hey, I really want this to be fixed. And he's like, you're going to move in and the dog's going to chew on that, day one. And I was like, that doesn't matter.
It's irrelevant. Yeah.
Yeah. Like they paid for it to be perfect. There are extreme expectations of some clients that might be above and beyond, but we'll leave those there.
I was wrapping up that job yesterday. Client's like, I noticed a couple of smudge marks on the deck.
Bro, you washed that thing with a sponge.
Dude, I know. But then, I mean, I was kind of laughing about it because there are, and like that's just what you get with those ASIC, the PVC products. They're like, you get weird smudges on them, and it does something to the sheen. And yeah, as you say, as soon as there was footprints of salt that they had walked outside and back in that were like right next to the smudge marks, and I'm like, but there's smudge marks. So I like went in and I was with a wire brush and some because it gets into the grain and it like goof off.
Acetone or something.
Well, acetone you can't, because on some of theirs you can, but like the PVC, depending on the finish, it'll dry it out and like burn it up. So I was using WD-40. I found works really well on them. So I had a wire brush and like WD-40 and was cleaning.
You know what WD stands for?
Water displacement.
Yeah, and you know why it's 40?
No.
It's the 40th
element.
No, it's the 40th try of making.
Oh, really?
That. Yeah.
I love the smell of WD-40.
That I don't know. I mean, I don't mind the smell, but that's a weird one to love.
Really, it's so unique. Not if I'm like in small amounts, and I can remember being younger and liking that, but it gives you a headache after a while.
Well, I mean, I don't mean
if you get it on you, it's gross, but I don't mind if I go and fill up with gas, it smells decent. Or like when somebody first lights a cigarette, I don't mind it, but then after that, I'm like, this is gross. Or like a pipe, when somebody first lights it. No, but
Two-stroke.
WD-40, yeah, 2-stroke's good.
Sick.
WD-40, I feel like smells very good. Acetone smells good.
We don't recommend huffing any of this stuff,
No,
guys.
not at all.
But it's funny, like I almost wonder. It's like you should have had the client done there, like just rinse it off.
Yeah.
Like, all right, we're all done. Okay, it looks great, and then you wash it.
Correct.
Because it's like when you wash it, like now it's 99% perfect, and the 1% is just now highlighted.
Yeah, so I pressure washed it yesterday.
Yeah.
I pressure washed that. I pressure washed the whole sidewalk. I went around with my magnet and picked up a lot of nails from the siders. And that was an interesting question where it's like, I don't want to bust his balls, but like it was as if the siding got done and it's all the little snips of vinyl siding, like just the little cuts on the angles and the returns. They were just like, there was no trash can
Did
for
you
them.
say something?
I need to, but I was like,
I would have
right
taken a
before-
picture and just asked if he wanted these back.
I have a picture of it, and I probably picked up 100 nails.
Hey, do you want these?
Yeah, but it's like I'm trying to do a better job of approaching that conversation more delicately, where I'm not just being a dick.
I know.
Even though like I'm kind of laughing about it, but I also just don't want to be a dick because. But if it were me, right? Because like the way roofers work is they bring in other people. Typically, they're subcontractors. They don't work for them. They have people do the job, and they did like a really nice job with everything. The cleanup for me was the issue, and it's in garden beds and stuff. So, like, it just obviously shouldn't be there, and it's difficult to clean up. But it's like those things should just go in your tool belt rather than throwing them in the first place. But if it were me, I would want to know so that I could tell them for the next one, make sure that you're cleaning this stuff up.
No, 100%. I mean, we had our end of year meeting, and I actually addressed something that I realize I'm pretty bad at with my team is I walk the job and, I'll make a couple nice comments, but anything that's wrong, I point out.
Yeah.
And I said to my team, I'm like, I
must love
recognize, huh?
They must love you.
I think they do. I was like, I recognize that this is not the right way to go about it because, think of a marriage, right? Like, so many people will relate to like, it's like, oh, I do all this shit for my wife and all she does is point out the shit I don't do or I do wrong. And it's like, I mean, I deal with that. I'm sure you deal with that. It's like, Meg, like, dude, out of the 1,000 things I did right, the only thing you addressed was the thing I did wrong. And it sucks. It's like a terrible feeling. It makes you like, it feels like you feel defeated, but I'm doing the same thing when it's like I'm walking the jobs and it's like, hey, you think you can get this place cleaned up? It's like they know they need to clean it up.
Yeah.
And I'm just pointing out like that they haven't.
Thanks for reminding me.
Right. So it is a delicate balance. I also, on one hand, I'm like, I don't really care. Like in the sense of I want to be the person that they not fear, but you know how like it's good for your kids to like have a little bit of fear when you show up. Like I want them to have that slight sense of anxiety to just look around and be like, all right, is my shit straight?
You just need people to work for you or underneath you who want that. And like you could look at it from a coaching perspective, right? Where there's people who hate the coaches who are really hard on them and just drive them so hard and push them. But like there's certain people who really dwell or succeed in those situations and excel in those situations, and other people don't. So it's just finding people who fit and want somebody there that's going to hold them accountable and not necessarily blow smoke up their ass. Like I'm the type of person that doesn't want to be patronized, and I don't want somebody to blow smoke up my ass. Like, but I also understand I don't want somebody coming in and being like, yeah, like I know that I have to do that. I don't need you to tell me that I have to do that. But so most builders, I think, check out before or during punch list. And then by the time you're closing out a job, most people are behind schedule. Most people probably aren't reaching the margins that they want on the projects. They're just looking to close out a project, and they're not thinking about how to maintain that project, how to turn that project over to a client. And I think that this is when clients are probably most vulnerable at 2 points of the job: when they're signing on the job and starting the job, and then when you're closing the job out, because they're like, we've spent all this money. a bit of the shine has worn off throughout the process, and there's been ups and downs and the emotional roller coaster that Brad talks about. But then you're turning the project over, you're leaving, and they want to be guaranteed that they're going to be protected and that trust is going to be maintained throughout the job. And they have all these new systems. They've obviously just spent a lot of money. They've invested a lot of time into this, and now they're slammed with so much information and overload. So it's like, how do we make sure that we're able to provide these clients with all the information that they need to be able to protect this investment and all the hard work that you put in, but also not creating more stress for them? Like, what does that system look like? And I think that part of the trouble is we think, like, as builders, we think in a certain way, and that doesn't necessarily translate to turning this project over to a client. Like, they don't need to know how that system works, what went into it, what needs to be set up in order to make sure that it's running as efficient as possible. They just need to know, when do I maintain it? When do I change the filters? Who do I call if I need this? They don't need to know all the. So, like, how do we simplify that? How do we create that trust without overloading them?
I agree with you, but I think that they do and should have the information. Like, they don't need to know what went into it or how it operates, but yes, they need to know how to maintain it. But the information on the information of what went into it or what it is should be available to them.
Yeah, but like, there's not a ton of value for me in handing someone over a 300-page spec book where it's like, I don't even know where to start, right? So what do we provide them with that's going to make sure that they actually read it and maintain the systems? Or, like, is it just providing them with all of that information and then we make sure that it gets done?
Yeah, so the O&M, or operations and maintenance manual, as it's called, is the most talked about and complicated document that we put together for our projects. And we literally finished up a project last year. It was a basement remodel in a brownstone in Boston. And we just finished the O&M. Not because it took us a year to put together, but it was just like a complicated process. So for us, small project, but there's a lot of information, and exactly what you said, like, we dropped the ball on that. Client reached out, was like, hey, it's been a while. Like, when am I going to get this document? And kudos to our APM on our team. He put it together and sent it out last week. And they're like, thank you so much. Nice to have all this information in one spot finally. And it's a robust document. It's hundreds of pages long. It's got all the information. And frankly, they'll probably scan through it one time and maybe refer back to it every so often, depending on what information they need. But to your point, that I think while they don't need that information, I think the reason that I find it to be so important is that, number one, the information exists in one spot. So yes, they can reference it, but it's also so we can reference it. So, like, if they have an issue, we can come back and flip through this book and find the information, and oftentimes address the issue maybe remotely. Like, right now, right before we hopped on this podcast, my electrician's headed to their project to address their snow melt system because they don't think it's working, or it wasn't working when it snowed the other day. So, but there's a lot of information. Like, we were reading through the documents, and we were getting information from the client to make sure that it wasn't a software issue, it wasn't accidentally tripped, it wasn't, the sensor was correct, because we could reference the information because we knew where it was. Having all that information in one spot is really beneficial to us internally. But from the client's perspective, one of the things that we are really trying to do is be able to hand over this document the moment we finish the job.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is by, collecting and developing the O&M as we're building, which is done through, like, submittals and, like, ripping the data out of it. And ultimately, knowing what information needs to be in it. And this is where we've sat down as a team. I can't even tell you how many, like dozens of times, like, should this be in it? Yes, no, maybe, why, like, why should it be? And there's actually a lot of softwares out there that are either simplifying this or trying to simplify this. But at the end of the day, like from us, we have a big PDF. It's all tabbed, so you can click on the table of contents. It brings you to the section. You can read what it is, and then I send that to a printing company, and they print 3 copies, and 1 goes to the client, and 2 sit in the office here. And it's just like, frankly, like the hard paper copy is just nice where you can reference it, like, if you're not on a computer, or if you want to bring, like, it goes with my tech out to the site, like he just can flip through it.
I mean, just think of it from a maintenance perspective. Even the job I'm on now, right? We replaced in a door, and it went into an existing opening, but the door is slight size different. So by the time we cased it out, it was slightly smaller. So I had to spackle the wall, touch it up, and just knowing what type of paint we painted and what finish, and like the upstairs, she's like, "Well, you're here patching stuff. Let's do a patch upstairs." So then it's going down to the basement, trying to figure out what was what when we use. And it's like, if you have all of that information, it doesn't necessarily, like, I think that the golden ticket may be, like you said, creating this document for yourself, and then maybe providing your client with all of that information, but then distilling it down to the cliff notes of what they more than likely need. Do they need to understand the specs of their furnace and their heating system? Probably not. They can have them. But what are just some of the general things, like when you have your HVAC sub there, what should my client understand with this system? If they see a typical code, how often should they be changing the filters? What type of filters? Just to be able to hand that over. Like, you should be getting that information from them, just to make sure that they understand when there is an issue, what they need to do to fix it, and when they should just call you.
I think that that's a good first step. Here's a great use for AI. So you get the furnace, you have the specs, you pull up all the documents for the furnace in the home. I'll put it into chat and say, I want you to read through all of these documents and list all the maintenance requirements for this furnace and the cadence in which that maintenance needs to be done to make sure that we can maintain the warranty on the equipment.
Yeah.
And so this is a great one for appliances, because if you ever read through a Sub-Zero spec book, it's hundreds of pages of just like the same, like they basically put all of their models in one book. So it's like, this is the model I have, pull all the pertinent information out of it, and we'll take that and that will be what goes into the O&M in terms of like what the client needs to understand. So for us, like, yes, that information lives, in a document. They have it, they understand who to call, what to do, how to deal with this stuff. But we do a post-construction service, which is our home care program. And while we're putting the O&M together, we will also put together a maintenance schedule. So when we're getting like, hey, Sub-Zero needs to have the filter vacuumed off every 6 months and a water filter replaced every 3 months, whatever, like all of that information will go in a list. And then we build a maintenance schedule for the home, which can be hundreds of items.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like, we want to maintain the warranty on this stuff. And we also want to make sure that we don't risk them damaging something. Wood floors is a great example. It's like, hey, you always get the question, like, what can I clean? Or maybe not.
Yeah.
Some clients are like, what can I clean?
I buy them what they need.
Yeah. Like, but then it runs out, and then they're calling you again. So we have that in there. It's like, hey, here's your floor finish. It's a approved sample. It's white oak. It's got provincial stain on it by Minwax, and it's got Loba, and it's got this sealer and 2 coats of clear coat on top. Like that's narrated, and then here's how you clean the floor, and do not use Murphy's oil soap. Sorry, Murphy's, but like that shit has always been a bigger issue than it's caused good. But we'll have all of that in there so they can always reference what they need to maintain that without damaging it. Also, it's also a protection for us, where it's like, you didn't tell me I couldn't use that. I'm like, I did. Just kind of like when you buy your car
Yeah.
and there's this book in your glove box and it tells you to, change your oil and you didn't change your oil, or, not only that, but, there's a whole other side of something that we're building in terms of like the whole dashboard where it's like, it used to be in the book of like when to change your oil. And then they add the sticker on your windshield so you wouldn't forget.
Yeah.
And now you don't need any of that. It just says on your dash, like time to change your oil.
Yeah.
And like for us, we're, that's kind of our next step in terms of the post construction is being like having all of this built in a way that notifies the client like, hey, your boiler needs to be descaled today.
Yeah. I also think that it would be important the way that I would structure this, because for me it's just one-off for each project and I'm not doing full builds, so it's typically pretty manageable. If I do a bathroom, it's like what type of material do we have in there, what they should expect, what they can clean with. It's pretty straightforward. But for me, just I would have a generic outline. I would have it, I think mostly it's going to fall into your general conditions of your contract, what they can expect, just something that can serve as a template for each project, and then have your specifics for those projects as well. But then be able, if you have that outline, constantly be reiterating that and adding to it. Like GFIs, where are all their GFCIs in the house so that you can avoid when they trip a GFCI that something's not working for them, right? Where it's like, well, here where all your GFCIs are. So if for some reason there's a circuit that's not working, this is what we're going to have you go look at too. I feel like it would be so, like it would, there's so much information that I think that you'd be able to troubleshoot not being at that home, where it's like, if you understand what their electrical panel looks like and what breakers are what, to be able to have the conversation with them about what's on each breaker if they have an issue or if something tripped, what they can go look for, is just going to save you so much time. But it's one of those things where like you're going to have to, you can get a template for that and a basis for that, but then you just need to be constantly adding to that for the type of work and jobs that you're doing.
You just said bathroom. This is, making sure the address isn't on there. That's an owner's manual, and that's how thick it is. So it's like 5/8 of an inch.
Big back.
Huh?
Big back.
Big back. But it's like you get your table of contents. We put our contact information for anyone, like if there's an emergency, who you call. And then we put our signed contracted warranty information here as a reminder, and then your maintenance schedule, and then it has like all the materia, shop drawings, how to adjust your hinges. Then you get into like this has the waterproof plaster, every plumbing fixture that you have, all the specs on it. And it's like, this is a lot of information, and we gave this to the client. And it's funny, I'll never forget, we handed this to the client, and he was someone that really appreciated the details. And I mean, all the electrical, every light that we use, the switch, even the switch plates. We put the drawings back in there, permit, signed off permit, what waterproofing material we use, yada yada. But we sent it to the client, and I never saw a response. And I asked my team, like, did he like it? And they were like, never said anything. I was like, that guy was so into the details. Like, look how nice this thing is.
I would love that.
It's like,
I'm a nerd when I get stuff too. Like if I get my excavator, my wife's like, you're really reading the manual in bed, where I'm like, I like to go through it, and I like to understand what needs to be done to it at what hours. Like, you're investing that much money in something, why don't you want to understand what you have to do to protect it and to keep it working the way it's supposed to?
The best is when you read something, you're like, wait, I didn't know it could do that.
Yeah.
And you like wake up the next morning and you find out.
Yeah. So what do you think? I have an outline of what I think is most important when it comes to kind of how I would divide this into 4 buckets. So I have mechanical systems, I think, is really important. People need to understand what to do, when to do it, how to maintain them, how to make sure that they're healthy and safe. I have appliances, what they can expect, what they should do if there's an issue, tax incentives, credits, who's responsible for them. And then I have seasonal maintenance, when they should be doing that each and every year. And then just typical house stuff, which I think is more than likely accounted for in your general conditions of, or not your general conditions, of your contract, with like settlement, caulking, paint, curing, what they need to understand is a warranty issue, what is just typical construction, where I think that generally that's going to be covered in the contract, which I would also include in this. But right, caulk's going to crack, paint's going to be to move, concrete may have hairline cracks in it, plaster, all of those things, just to make sure that you're not constantly getting called to fix this, that, and the other thing. Wood stains may not, different wood species may not look consistent even though they have the same stain on them. How are you protecting yourself at the job turnover and while that client moves into that space and starts using that space?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, we have our warranty drafted up exactly for that. It's like cracked caulking is expected, hairline cracks in concrete, like you said, floor finish, sun fading, even screw pops, or it's just all of that stuff is, hey, this is typical. Like, that we build, these are typical things that will need to be addressed. We look at it in 3 buckets in terms of maintaining a home. We look at mechanical, equipment, and aesthetics. That's basically how we break it up. You added seasonal in there, but our seasonal still falls in one of those buckets. So when we're putting together a maintenance manual, we look at all the mechanicals, and essentially, you have your mechanicals in terms of like boiler, furnaces, like filters, all that. But we also do, twice a year, because we kind of time it with a winter shutdown and a spring startup. But we'll go through all the plumbing fixtures in the house, pull them apart, make sure the valves are if they need to be greased, they're greased. If they need to be tightened, they're tightened. We check all of the water stops. We're looking at underneath all the cabinets, checking all the drains, like literally fixture by fixture, going over it and inspecting it. And because you don't realize that when a client calls for a leak or something is dripping, it's usually has been leaking for years.
Maybe since you turned the job over.
Maybe, right? And it's like we just did one on a project, and the client didn't even know, but the toilet was leaking every time she flushed it. And and apparently the building came in and pulled her toilet out to inspect something and did a bad job resealing it. Like, she didn't know. And the plumber looked at it and goes, this needs to be reset, and he reset it. But so we'll do that. So we'll go through all the plumbing fixtures, and the reason. So this is in our post-construction process. Like, it's but it's whether the client's doing it or we're doing it. It's just the difference on who's paying for it.
Yeah.
But we and we'll generate a whole report. Like, these are all the things that we inspected. This is the findings. Do that for HVAC. Same thing. Go through all the equipment. Make sure all the filters are changed. A little hack on the filter change thing. If someone's not doing it for you, go to Amazon, set up a subscription for filters for what size you need, and set it up for every 6 months. So when there's a box of filters on your front steps, it's time to change your filter.
Why does it seem like such a pain in the ass to change your filters when it's just not? Like, dude, my refrigerator filter I've reset that button like 6 times. And I have a filter in the next room over, or even like my HVAC filter. I have an alarm set on my phone when I need to change it, because we have like one of those super thick filters, so it only gets changed like a couple times a year. But like, it literally takes 2 seconds, and I just put it off. Like, I keep changing the reminder. I'm like, I could just go downstairs. It takes less than 5 minutes.
I don't know why we do that.
It just seems like a pain in the ass, but it's really not.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, my fridge filter, dude, I'm definitely drinking some nasty refrigerator water.
I mean,
right
it's
now.
Usually because you don't have the product, but the fact that you have the product, I mean.
Oh yeah, I have it.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even have to shut the water off anymore on the. I think it
just comes down to like priority, right? And there's so many things at this point in my life that are more pressing than like
Let's just be clear. Tyler needs to read the excavator manual instead of changing the air filter.
It's perceived importance, right? Like I feel like my water tastes fine, so I'm not that worried about it. Like, but it actually may be the most pressing thing in my life. Hence, it's like when you're sick right now. Why are you sick? Because I've been drinking nasty fridge water for the past 6 months.
I mean, it is full. I mean, it's like a battery and a smoke detector. It's like a light bulb that's out. Like, I mean, dude, Meg and I, it was probably last year. The light in our room stopped working.
Yeah,
it has 2 bulbs in it. Stopped working, and I'm just like, Meg, we're demoing the house, like we're renovating the house. Like, I'll deal with the wiring when I deal with it. Like, let's just put a lamp in here. For months, we just set up a lamp. And then finally I was like, wait, I wonder if both light bulbs just happen to go out at the same time.
Same time, yeah.
Sure enough, it was just the fucking light bulb. And Meg's like, are you serious? She's like, why didn't you even, I was like, I don't know. I just didn't think that would happen. And she's like,
I do it all the time. Or I have like mismatched bulbs because I'm like, I'm going to redo that space. I'm not going to, like, I'll just go down to the closet and find one that. But that's another thing, dude. Like light bulbs, especially on decorative light fixtures, they're either specific. And I get so lost when somebody's like, you need an E19, this type of bulb. I'm like, I don't know what the hell that is. Nope. But like having light fixtures and pictures and what type of bulbs go with them so that when somebody replaces them, it's the same color temperature and the same base type. And they're not running back and forth to the store a million times cursing you off because you didn't give them that information.
Dude, yeah. I mean, the house with Steve Teague, we went room by room and essentially just like, this is how many of this light fixture you have. Here's the bulb that we used. And part of having that in our maintenance program is that we would then have attic stock. And we always have at least 2 of them in the basement for each fixture. And if we go on site and replace them, like you are to order and replace them on the shelf. So they always have them. That way a client can go down and grab one if they need. Yeah. Same thing with batteries. I mean, but yeah, light bulbs is a huge one. When we do the electrical, we do plumbing, electrical, HVAC, those inspections twice a year. So the electrician will come out and they go and make sure every light bulb is working. All the batteries are replaced. And they have to test every single outlet and make sure that there's no issues. They're making sure everything is running. All the breakers are good. Like, again, it's just, if you get in that cadence of looking at that stuff every 6 months, you're going to prevent the quote unquote warranty call. That's not really a warranty call, but you feel bad because it shouldn't have happened, but you're just going to go out and take care of it for the client. Yeah. It's like what Andrew Patterson has talked about on the podcast before. It's like, he told the story about, someone calling and be like, you're a shitty builder. My roof is leaking. And he went out there and he's like, dude, your gutters are clogged.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know I had to clean my gutters. It's like, what? He's like, your roof's leaking because like all your water's backing up underneath the flashing. And he's like, well, I just didn't know that. And so, that's for us, when we build, we put all of those items in a list. And then we assign a price to it. And most homes are going to be anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000, depending if it's a condo or a house, a year. And when a client hears that, like, I just spent millions of dollars, and now you're gonna charge me $30,000 a year to maintain it. I'm like, I'm not. We don't have to do it,
dude. It's crazy that like you think how much you pay to go get the oil change and brakes done and tires on your car, like versus the cost of that car. The percentages, it's not different, and it's also
especially a Lamborghini is like $8,000 to change the oil.
Yeah, like, but if you want to that's just part of the affordability of a house. And like if you are building a house like that and you can't afford to maintain it, you're not being a good steward for that home. That even from like a builder's perspective, I don't want to go back and see my work trashed. It's just disheartening because you put how much effort into that, and it just, there's blood, there's sweat, there's tears. You created something from nothing, and then to go in and be like, well, this has gone to shit. Like, and I always say when I turn a job over to I just literally had the conversation with my client. She's like, my son was really impressed with how well you cleaned everything. And I'm like, this is the best it's ever going to look and the cleanest it's ever going to be. And as soon as I leave here, you guys are going to start just basically breaking shit. And there's been one client that I've gone back in that literally like years later is the exact same. Most people take care of them to a certain extent, but one lady, I'm like, have you even been in this space? Like, this is
Every
ridiculous.
Day.
Yeah.
Clean my way out.
But to me, that's the way it should be. And it should be a consideration when you are looking at building a home. What does that house take to maintain from a financial or time perspective each and every year to make sure that everything's in working order? And I think that that's being a responsible homeowner, a responsible client, and also like what they should be doing just as far as keeping that house intact. So do you like formats that actually work for them? Do you have a preference, physical or digital? Like, to me, digital's convenient when you're off-site.
Maintenance schedule?
Yeah, like just this document that you're going to be creating for a client, right? You're going to turn this over. For me, I think digital is convenient, but I oftentimes find that when I am doing maintenance, a physical maintenance guide or a physical document works better for me than having a digital file of that. Like, sometimes I just find it more difficult to search what I need or to like dog ear a page. It's easier for me to have a physical guide.
So everything we do is digital first, and then we print them. So like, I mean, you know how I'm a stickler for brand. So like, they have these books, home care offerings. And then inside, you know, we give, this is essentially, you know, anyone that's watching this on YouTube can see what I'm showing, but like, you know, this is essentially appliance maintenance, cleaning services, equipment maintenance, inspections, and restoration services. And then it goes into exactly what each of those things, you know, includes. So for example, like bathroom exhaust fan cleaning. How many people listening to this podcast has cleaned their bathroom fan?
Dude, I literally look at it every day, and my
Have you cleaned
ceiling's
it?
on the second floor, like 10 feet.
No.
No, there's fuzz growing in it.
So it's like we'll go through and do all of these things. Thermostat maintenance. Have you ever maintained your thermostat?
I changed it once.
No. You got to make sure that thing's highly sensitive. It's a highly sensitive
I was working on my
instrument.
range yesterday because it stopped turning my oven on, so I was pulling my oven apart while I was trying to heat up nachos for the kids and ordering like replacement parts for it.
Wait, I told you about our range, right?
No.
I mean, again, like my house is going to be renovated, so we had this old like 70s GE range that 2 burners broke on.
Yeah.
And Meg was pretty patient for 3 years. And I would take it apart and like squeeze the contacts back and make the burner work every once in a while. And one day a 3rd burner broke, and I came home, and if she could have picked up the range and threw it at me, she would have. And I was like, all right. And I just ordered her a new one. It was like $600.
Yeah.
And she's like, this thing's amazing. I'm like, wait till you see the one I'm getting you when we renovate.
Ours isn't a nice one, but I'm like, why? I was trying to heat up nachos, and it's like 25 minutes later, I'm fully inside the oven. Like, and Rachel's like, dude, just put it in the air fryer. The kids are getting out of control. They're so hungry. At this point, I'm fully distracted, like pissed off as to why it worked. On YouTube, looking at what could be the issue. Like, Emery,
you got to use
cloth,
ChatGPT FaceTime, man. That would have told you right away.
So I ordered parts for that. Hopefully we're back up and running soon.
The problem is like you're better off buying a $600 range.
I know, but it's the same thing. It's like we're going to be building a house. Like
I know. It is my whole life. Like, oh, I'm going to be doing this thing, so I won't do this thing now.
Yeah,
and that it's such a bad way to live because it's like, oh, I'm not. You know, I've hung up curtains in our living room 13 times because I just refuse to go put anchors in the wall and do it the correct way. I'm just like trying to find a stud, and I'm like, all right, I think I grabbed, and then the kids rip it down the next day.
Yeah.
And she's like, why don't you just do it the right way? I'm like, because we're going to be renovating. She's like, Nick, we've been here for 4 years. We could like, one day I came home, she was just painting the walls white. She's like, I just want the walls to be white. That's it. Like, just clean.
It's true.
But your question. So we
think.
We do the physical copy so people can look through it and see what that checklist is. And ultimately, this is a sales document. So they have this and they look through and and ultimately this goes with our proposal. So it's, hey, it's $30,000. And they're like, oh my God, what is that for? And they see line by line because we itemize it. It's like, hey, we're going to send out window cleaners twice a year to clean the inside and outside of your windows. Oh yeah. I didn't even think of that. I'm like, of course, like a lot of people don't. We're going to wash the outside of your house once a year. We're going to clean the gutters, in the fall. It's everything that the house would require to keep it in near perfect condition.
Yeah.
If you don't want to do all those things, that's fine. If you don't want to do any of them, that's also fine. But we want to give you the full package. Like this is if we're truly maintaining this home and abiding by all the warranty docs, this is what is going to be required of your home. Yeah. You want to pick stuff off and say, hey, I don't really want my windows cleaned, or hey, I really enjoy cleaning my windows. I'll do it. Yeah, no problem. We'll take that off. Like I'll clean my gutters. Yeah, no problem. We'll take it off. Our phase 2 of like what I was getting at is we're going to remind them, like we're setting up a system where it will remind them, just like when you're driving your car and you need an oil change, that they're going to say, hey, you need to, your gutters are due to be cleaned. And ultimately that will, the way that we're building that is essentially, and we were working with a handful of different people to build this in software, and we're just kind of doing it internally now with Google Calendar and whatnot. But ultimately they'll get an email saying, hey, your gutters are due to be cleaned. And they can click saying, I handled it, or scheduled to have it handled, and we'll send someone out and get it taken care of, and they'll just get billed. This is if they're not part of our maintenance program. So it's like, it's still reminding them that the gutters need to be cleaned. So if they have a roof leak, they're like, hey, I have a roof leak. You go out, the gutters are jammed. It's like, well, I didn't know how to clean them. I'm like, yeah, I did. I sent an email on October 10th right there. Oh, I didn't see that. It's like, well, but I notified you. Yeah. Like, just because you didn't look at the email, like we're doing everything we can to remind you that this stuff needs to be done. And we gave you the option to have it done for you.
I think even with it's so easy now with the digital files to create Loom videos that could be standards for jobs, right? It doesn't need to be project specific. You can make project specific videos, but also you could create basically a library of home maintenance even through Loom videos, which is super easy. Another good option for me at the end of the project is just a structured walkthrough where you're accounting for a half a day of time to go through and budgeting for that, where it's like, we're going to just like when you buy a new vehicle and they take you and they walk you through and they show you how to use everything in the vehicle. It's like, take the time to do that. Don't be so concerned with just walking out of the house and getting out of there and getting paid, because you're actually going to save yourself time in the long run if you take those few hours or take that day and walk them through the whole house and understand what they need to do and what everything does. And it doesn't mean that they're going to retain all of that. Again, it's just about creating that trust and that insurance that they're going to be taken care of, and that you've accounted for everything that needs to be accounted for within their investment.
I mean, the Loom video is a great idea, or any kind of video, because you do it enough, you will absolutely just have this library of things where you can just reference, like, hey, I don't know what's going on. Like, how do I change the filter in my furnace? It's like, okay, well, they have the same furnace as everything else. Here's a video. It's simple things too. It's, think like I basically have this rule where it's like, if a client reaches out with a question about their home, that needs to then become just a standard for us. We have like, hey, how do I shut off the main water on my house?
Sure.
Oh my God, like that's a great point. We should make sure that in the O&M that it shows on a floor plan, here's your main water shut off. Here's your main gas shut off. Here's how you shut the whole power off in the house. Like, what are the things that they're going to need to understand, in severe situations?
Yeah,
make sure that those answers are available.
So for Matt, who is the emailer, to me, it's just getting started, right? It doesn't need to be overly complicated. And a couple of ideas for getting started right off the bat is create a one-page document where it's like the first 30 days in in your new home, what you should be doing, what you should be looking out for. If you see something, what's a concern. Create a simple document where it's like 30 days in your new home, what to expect. And then a maintenance calendar. And it could be quarterly, it could be annually, semi-annually, and then just a number of people that you can call if there's something wrong. Who are they going to contact, right? Is it Nick? Is it Tyler? Is it your PM? Is it the subcontractor? Like, who are you calling and what works for your company? What's the structure of your company? What should that look like? And then what to expect on your build. What's normal, what's not normal. And then I think even just having a check-in, right? After 30 days, have some sort of system where you're checking in with that client. After 90 days that you're checking in with them just to make sure if there's anything that they need. I think it just shows good faith. It shows that you're taking care of them. And like Nick and I said, if you're waiting to create a document and have a perfectly completed and executed document, you're never going to do it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Start it, put it out there, get it done, evolve, adapt, make it better, make it more robust, continue to add to it. But you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think there's a general outline you could create, but it is going to be unique to your business and the type of jobs that you're doing. Like if I were to use something like Nick's process and standards and book for my job, it would be way too overwhelming and way too much information. I don't need all of that. So just like
especially
my contract,
for a one-man shop.
correct. But just like my contract, right? There's certain aspects of my contract that I pull out and I put in based on the job just so that I'm not overwhelming them. And I think you should be doing that with this too.
Yeah. I mean, I want to go back to something you said, the 30, 90-day check-in for us. And just to give you the full picture, I talked about mechanicals, equipment, appliances, like all of that stuff gets on to a cadence based on the maintenance they require. But one of the things we do with those 30, 90-day check-ins, we do a 6-month check-in, especially for like things like millwork.
Yeah.
And so we finish, everything gets adjusted. They move in, they load the cabinets up, stuff moves. And then you give them 6 months because then they're going to figure out where everything actually lives. Then go through and make sure all the millwork is adjusted. Because a slightly rubbing door is a non-issue until it rubs for a year and then the paint rubs off and then it gets water in it and then the door explodes and then they're like, this is a shitty door. It's like, no, it's just been slightly rubbing for 2 years.
Yep.
So, those are the things that, so for us, we go into this whole aesthetic side where it's, we're cleaning windows, we're soft washing the outside of the house. We go through and adjust all the millwork once a year. But most importantly is that 6-month check-in after we complete the job. And we also do paint touch-ups. So we basically have an allowance for every single year we go through and do touch-ups, which allows us to address the cracking, caulking, or miscellaneous touch-ups in high wear and tear areas. And then they have the option to add on paint services. Like, hey, I really want to repaint that room. No problem. Like, we already have a painter for 2 days here, so why don't we just expand that scope and it's an extra, $1,000 and we'll get that room repainted, whatever it is. But yeah, the idea of starting it and allowing it not to be perfect and building upon it, I think if anyone is like myself, you fear that whatever version 1 is going to be, version 2 will be better, and then you will owe that to the person that got version 1. Sure, like maybe, but the reality is like just you got to get version 1 out so you can understand what works and what doesn't, get that feedback, and do version 2 and do version 3 and get and become better and better and better. It's something I struggle with where it's like I look back at jobs that I've done 10 years ago and I'm just like, man, like I would have never done it that way. Like I feel bad that I had done it that way, but that's just that's everything. It's the, Ford Motor Company. I don't know why I'm picking on Ford, but
Go for it.
Like they look back at cars that like, yeah, those cars weren't great. They've gotten better and better. I mean, arguably, but that's part of evolution of what we do. So you got to get that first version out, even if it's just a Word document. You just got to get it out into the client's hands. Feel as though they're getting value out of it, and then ask, "Hey, is it missing anything?" Yeah, it's like, hey, this is great, but I don't really care what the specs of my waterproofing are underneath my tile. I just want to know what kind of tile I have, and I don't, in case I break one. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, no problem. Like I should include that. And where did I buy it? Oh, that's a great point. I should include that information. And what color grout did I like? You know, ask the client. The client's gonna give you answers, and then when they reach out and say, "Hey, yeah, I had a client, and they were like, hey, we dropped I forget what they dropped on the floor, and it cracked the tile." So I'm like, "Hey, we need to make sure that we have that information." Like that was years ago. It's like
Yeah.
they don't even know where they ordered that tile. So let's make sure we have that in the
And
document
you
form.
might not if you're not documenting that.
Right. It's
Like
like I don't know.
I forget material and samples that I ordered from a month ago, let alone from 2-3
Yeah.
years ago, a product that we
Right.
used on a house. I think
Yeah.
that at the end of the day, like Matt's question, I think that this is something that you should be taking into consideration. And I think that there's a lot to be learned from this conversation, not just with taking care of your existing clients, taking care of your projects, being good stewards for the home, but also what this can do for your business and for your reputation and for, right, we're getting hired because clients trust us. And if your referrals and your testimonials are coming from clients who have been taken care of before, during, and even more importantly, after the build, it's a huge opportunity to leverage that for marketing content as well, for testimonials, for clients where they're looking up, hey, do we want to use this company? Yeah, like they even at the end of the job set us up with a document that we can maintain our house. They offer maintenance programs for a house, whatever it may be. I think that the clients who, or the contractors who have a system for this, and this is something that I can, to be fully transparent, be better at, is creating a system to be able to take care of your clients post construction, and not waiting on them to call you with a problem, to stay ahead of that and stay ahead of your clients. I think the education there is going to reduce friction. And again, for me, it's like this is a huge opportunity for you to win long term as a contractor and set your clients up to live in those spaces confidently.
Dude, it builds so much, equity with the client. I think about the sunroom or the screened in porch you did, where it's like you could go back and be like, hey, we're all done, just as an offering, like, you really should have this soft washed once a year.
Yep.
It's about $800. I can handle it for you, and I'll schedule it and do it once a year for you if you're interested. You get the information out there. They can bite. It's additional revenue for your business, and that's like, and I want to make the example with what you just built, because it's like that's a smaller version of building a house or doing a remodel. But all of this stuff can be additional revenue. But the most important thing for us is that we remain top of mind. We're always at their call. They're not trying to call a company to come out and wash it for them only to screw it up.
Yeah.
Go in there with a high pressure wash and blow blow the snot out of it, right? Like, or calling an electrician to come in and then have them screw some electrical up, and
Yeah.
or worse is like, who wired this? Oh my God, like I would have never wired it this way. He must have ripped you off, or oh my God, I can't believe the house didn't burn down. It's like, no, you control the narrative, and you control, like, you ultimately help protect the work that you've done. Now the client, like you are the client's call, and they might never do another project with you. But I will say, like, I can tell you firsthand, the fact that we're doing these touch-ups, or that we're doing these adjustments, or we're in their house twice a year, and when someone comes over the house and says, man, your house looks like it was just built, it's like, oh yeah, my builder maintains it. It's like, what do you mean? Didn't you build this 8 years ago? It's like, yeah, but they come twice a year and they make sure everything's in good shape. Oh my God, who's this guy? It's like, okay, they might not do a project, but now you're top of mind for a referral when someone else wants to build.
It's such a low lift for them to fall in love with that space again, and for them to be able to appreciate that space again. It's like getting your car detailed.
I was just going to say, like, when you clean your car.
Yeah, like it's like, oh my God, I forgot how much I love this car and how nice it is. And it's the same thing like for that porch. right? It's going to get dirty. It's going to get filthy. To have somebody come in and soft wash it and basically it's a new space again for them to enjoy is such a low lift for them to fall in love with that all over again. And again, you're making money on it. You're keeping the lines of communication open, and you're just making sure that you're prolonging the life of that project. If there's anything that needs to be done at that point, you can fix it, and it doesn't go 3-4 years where there's just bigger issues, where it's like, yeah, even if you're getting paid for it, it's probably just not how you want to be spending your time and your resources. So
yeah, I mean, that porch getting cleaned, it's like right now it's brand new, but a year from now when you wash it again, like they're gonna look at the rest of the house.
correct.
It's like when your buddies come over your house and you're detailing your car in the driveway. It's like, I should clean mine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dude, I've been thinking about it. We got some snow and I have salt all over everything, and I'm like, I really want to clean my truck. I think I might do it when we go away. Just like go to one of those mobile washing stations and get the salt off of it.
Yep.
Try and enjoy my truck again. But if you guys and girls have any questions that you want, like Matt did, I appreciate this. I appreciate it for the midweek. I appreciate for the main podcast being able to dive into a specific topic and get that answered. And it could be on business, it could be on lifestyle, whatever it may be. Our businesses, Nick's businesses, podcast. I do enjoy the emails that people send me where they want a specific topic covered. It's really enjoyable. We're serving you guys well. We're giving back to the community. I appreciate anyone who reaches out with a topic or a question. So if you do have a question that you want answered on the podcast or something that you want us to dive into for an hour or 2 hours, shoot us an email, either hello@moderncraftsman.co, or you can shoot me an email, tyler@trghomeconcepts.com. And if it's something that makes sense for the big picture, we'll definitely hop on it and get your question answered and spend some time discussing the topic.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys listening. As always, head over to moderncraftsman.co, sign up for the newsletter, sharing a lot more behind the scenes in the newsletter, giving away some free stuff. We're constantly building stuff. I'll even share a lot of the post-construction stuff in that with anyone that's part of that newsletter. It's obviously a topic that has come up quite a bit, and we've done quite a bit of work in the back end. So if you want that stuff, again, moderncraftsman.co, sign up for the newsletter, and you'll get it there. See you next week.